The 2013 through 2015 seasons were dominated by pitching. So many pitchers had an ERA under 3 during that span that you would have thought this was the 80s. But out of all these guys during that time span, 2 have had seasons that were not only the most dominant of the time, but some of the most dominant in MLB history. One of them was Clayton Kershaw during the 2014 season. This makes sense. Not only was his 2014 season unheard of, but he established himself as the best pitcher in baseball. 3 Cy Youngs, an MVP, and 4 straight seasons of being the MLB earned run average king is all you need to know. And then pitcher number 2 is Jake Arrieta in 2015. Not only did he have also one of the most dominant seasons of all time, but he helped lead the Cubs past a rebuild that was mastered perfectly. It's difficult to mention this season without mentioning this man, so this is 2015, the year of Jake Arrieta. It's every kid's dream to get drafted in the MLB. However, Jake Arrieta was drafted 3 different times. First, Arrieta was drafted in the 31st round by the Reds out of Plano East High School in Texas in the 2004 MLB draft. He instead went to a junior college called Weatherford College, where he was also picked in the 26th round the next season by the Brewers in 2005. After transferring to TCU, Arrieta was drafted again 2 years later in the 5th round by the Orioles in 2007, where he would eventually sign. This was smart by Arrieta because there's no guarantee that he was going to play in the MLB, and 5th round money is a lot better than 26th round or later money. In fact, he got a bigger signing bonus than anyone else drafted in the 5th round of 2007 at over $1.1 million. The experience in college paid off as well, as Arrieta was recognized as one of the top prospects in baseball by both Baseball America and Baseball Prospectus going into the 2009 and 2010 seasons. After a sub-2 ERA in 12 games in AAA, the Orioles called Arrieta up to the bigs in 2010. He wasn't bad at all for a rookie in his first season, posting a .466 ERA and 6 wins in only 18 starts. His 2011 season with the Orioles was slightly disappointing with a higher ERA. However, Arrieta had a much better strikeout rate, so that was something at least to build off of for a rebuilding Orioles team. However, Arrieta just could not improve, and his 2012 season was a disaster, having to bounce around AAA during the year. After 5 starts of over 7 ERA ball, the competing O's decided to move on from the former top 100 prospect during the 2013 season. In early July, the Orioles moved Jake Arrieta and the also struggling Pedro Strop to the Cubs for Steve Clevenger and Scott Feldman. At the time, this wasn't a bad trade. Arrieta was seen as a failed top prospect, and Pedro Strop struggled despite coming off a great year. Meanwhile, the Orioles grabbed an established starting pitcher and a backup catcher, hoping to make a playoff push. However, in 9 starts for the Cubs for the rest of 2013, Arrieta looked pretty solid, posting a .366 ERA and 37 strikeouts in only 51 innings. This was good for the Cubs and Arrieta so far, but future success and improvement was not guaranteed. There was a high chance that those 9 starts were a fluke, and he wouldn't match that in a full year, especially lowering his K per 9 during that span. But the rebuilding Cubs were willing to take that risk, as Jake Arrieta made their opening day roster in 2014, while starting on the 15-day at the time disabled list. Despite this, Arrieta came into the 2014 season with some kind of vengeance and was fantastic all year. Arrieta would go 10-5 with a .253 ERA and 167 strikeouts in only 156 innings, truly a breakout year in just 25 starts. Not only was Arrieta the best pitcher in the Cubs rotation, but one of the best in all of baseball, finishing 9th in the NL Cy Young voting, tied with Craig Kimbrell of the Braves. And it wasn't like Arrieta started or finished the season poorly. In fact, the highest his ERA ever was during the season was .320 to end May. Consistency in the rotation is crucial, and Jake Arrieta provided that and much more. 2015 was going to be a fun year for Cubs fans, as they were looking to have their first winning season during the rebuild. Building blocks in Starlin Castro and Anthony Rizzo were going to pair with an anticipated prospect in Chris Bryant and newly signed John Lester, who owned the largest contract in Cubs history at the time. Once 2015 came and went, the Cubs exceeded expectations and much more, winning 97 games, good for 3rd best in the entire MLB. Anthony Rizzo had another great year, Chris Bryant won Rookie of the Year, and John Lester proved he was worth the contract. However, the best player on the entire Cubs team in 2015 was Jake Arrieta, though it didn't seem that way the first half of the year. After saying that, you're probably thinking, he must have had a bad start to the year and just finished the year very strong. That's very much the opposite. By the All-Star break, Arrieta had a .280 ERA, which is elite in any season. However, he wasn't even an All-Star during this season, which many believed he was snubbed, seeing guys like Madison Bumgarner and others make it with slightly worse first halves. Despite this, once the first half of the season ended, Arrieta was already having a Cy Young contending season. As you can see, these were elite numbers, however, they don't even come close to comparing Arrieta's second half. Jake Arrieta would go on to post an unbelievable 0.75 ERA in his last 15 starts, going 12-1 with 113 strikeouts in 107 innings. Arrieta posted the lowest ERA of any starting pitcher in the second half of the season in MLB history. But this isn't even the most impressive thing he did this season, in my opinion. As Arrieta started being just outright dominant, so were the Cubs. The Cubs went from 47-40 and finished the season going 50-25 to end the season with, like I said, 97 wins. And to give you context on how amazing his second half was, here are hitters against him in his last 15 starts. And here are his stats as a hitter himself. Yes, Arrieta was a better hitter himself than MLB hitters were against him during that span. As I mentioned before, the Cubs finished 2015 with 97 wins, good for third in the entire MLB. However, the first and second teams in wins in the entire MLB as well were the Cardinals and the Pirates, who just so happened to be in the same division. This means the fate of their incredible run and incredible season overall was in the hands of a wildcard game against the Pirates at an away game. In a do-or-die situation, the Cubs could have given the ball to an already World Series winner in John Lester, who has had plenty of playoff experience in his career. However, manager Joe Maddon gave it to the once known as failed prospect in Jake Arrieta. No one in MLB history had a pitcher like 2015 second half Jake Arrieta, especially not the Pirates at the time. So what happened was pretty much expected against any team that Arrieta could have faced at that time, as the Cubs would travel to PNC Park and beat the Pirates 4-0. Jake Arrieta would throw a complete game shutout, only allowing 5 hits, while striking out 11 guys and not walking a single batter in that game. Unfortunately, Arrieta would struggle in his next 2 playoff starts. He would allow a combined 8 earned runs in a little over 9 innings during those 2 starts. And while the Cubs were able to beat the Cardinals in the divisional series in 4 games, they would get swept by the Mets in the championship series. Despite his struggles later in the playoffs, Arrieta finished the regular season with 22 wins, leading the entire MLB, along with a 177 ERA and 236 strikeouts in 229 innings. He also led the MLB in complete games with 4 and complete game shutouts with 3, including a no-hitter as well. Arrieta would have led the entire MLB in earned run average as well if it wasn't for this man. Despite this, Arrieta would win the 2015 NL Cy Young Award and would have also won the MVP if guys like this didn't just absolutely rake during that time. Arrieta would never have a sub-3 ERA again and unfortunately got worse each season as he got older. But that didn't stop him from having some memorable moments after the 2015 season though. The next season, Arrieta had his last year where he received any Cy Young votes as he helped lead the Cubs to a comeback victory versus Cleveland to win the 2016 World Series. 2016 was also the only season he was selected as an All-Star, and he even won the Silver Slugger as a pitcher, which is pretty cool. Going into 2018, Arrieta would sign with the Phillies on a 3-year, $75 million deal with 2 team options that could make the contract worth $135 million. However, Father Time wasn't on Arrieta's side, as he wasn't close to the pitcher he was with the Cubs as a Philly. The Phillies would decline Arrieta's option after 3 seasons, and he would return to the Cubs on a 1-year, $6 million contract in 2021. This would not work out, and after 20 starts with the Cubs, Arrieta would be released and picked up by the Padres, where he was significantly worse. 2021 was the last season Arrieta pitched in the MLB, and while he will never be a Hall of Famer, he had an awesome career. Arrieta would reach 115 career wins, a Cy Young, a Silver Slugger, an All-Star, along with a World Series ring, and 2 no-hitters. Despite a poor end to his career, he had a great impact in the Cubs' rebuild, along with their incredible 2015 run and the 2016 World Series. And while many people believed Arrieta was on steroids in 2015, nothing was proven, and Arrieta continued to negate this as he kept having negative tests. And when you have one of the best pitching seasons in MLB history, people are going to accuse you of steroids, especially when it's out of nowhere. But there's nothing anyone can do or say to negate the 2015 season he had, which was the year of Jake Arrieta.